So happy to see you. How you doing?
Putting yourself all
Good,
over.
good.
How the hell? I know. How come? Where are they?
Story of my life.
Story of life. Ne? But as long as you're hiding in Christ, safe place.
Where are you sitting with them?
Huh?
Are you sitting with someone?
You guys look like the noisy. It's fine.
No, come sit here. Where else would I go?
When there's so many hot things happening in Victoria, why would you be inside? All the exercise that
What?
side.
Actually true. What thing that I should that I do?
There is all things happening.
Yeah, I would
All these different things.
I have no idea. Like I don't like
You know, there's that TLC camp meeting.
I don't know.
You run into this, it's not fun.
Fun.
I thought it was your buddy. Is that funny?
now you like in between days for things now.
Oh, I didn't. There's Crystal Life at
That's just
that would have been nice. Guys who came to Texas this one time.
Nah, me, I'm not into business. Yeah, I've been around since I've been back, like
But no home.
like okay, that's last time that I did the most in terms of incorporating and to those styles. It's always taking them. Someone who forest a Calvin style, someone who forest a Botany style. I like it. Like the net.
No, let's sponsor my next one. What do you mean? Like, sponsor
My dad to resolve that I have some look for it.
I'm not following so many into stuff right now. When God is with you, don't undermine don't undermine his life. It's not knowing that you like it. Life is such a life. You put your mind where your mind is, that's where your heart is as well. what you treasure?
I'm still waiting to understand how it is.
See, you want a pastor woman giving you the lowdown, and you're not ready. Now, who are you doctoring? I'm dying. I'm sick. Julia, that's not too far. So it's in Joburg. And it's like a 15-minute drive to Pretoria. That's like in English. Watch your life. Watch your life. Hoping they see the basic thing. Because I mean, even if I say Kintsugi, but I don't drive to I've been doing it for a long time too. I know what the music is. Yeah. That's how we felt as well. But this year, I mean, like, life will force you to do things that you don't want to do. Yeah. Some of your classes are very balanced. Not what God had in plan. His funding is full. He loves me more than he As long as you show Come on. You're preaching to the congregation. After the sermon, you might have to lead the movement. Yeah, that's you can even feel the freedom where you actually get to somebody. You just feel like something that's these churches or whatever. They like I never know how to marry. Let us count
He's asking for something. It's in a peaceful. Zero. Zero.
Good morning, Metro Church. Morning. Sizing shifts. Good morning, Metro Church. Are we happy to be here? Yes. Are we happy to be here? Yes. Okay. Welcome you all to the house of the Lord this morning. I'm hoping we are all genuinely happy to be here. That if we came uncertain if this is where we want to be, that we'll definitely leave convinced that this was the right place to be. I'm going to ask if there's any visitors amongst us, any first-time visitors, to please just wave your hand. I'm not going to make you stand. Sure, there's so much waving, guys. Look around you. There's a lot of waving. I want to welcome you all in a very special way. I'm going to ask the praise team to join me up front as we welcome you in a very special. Thank you for joining us.
Amen. Morning, church. We're about to greet each other and do the things that we do here. So hopefully you'll stand, shake each other's hands, and give each other a holy kiss. You know what I mean. Amen. It's in the Bible. Hugs this way or that way. Keep it real. We're happy that you made it here. We're happy that you made it.
Thank you guys.
We're happy that you made it. 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 We're happy that you made it.
Truly happy and delighted that you have brought us by your Spirit to your house this morning. We thank you, Lord, that you are with us and that you are inhabiting our praise. We pray that may we truly find rest in this your Sabbath day. May we be comforted, may we need comfort, Lord. May we find rest in the things that trouble us, if there be any. And may we leave, Heavenly Father, just reminded of your goodness. And Heavenly Father, for the week that's ahead of us. We pray and ask for all of this in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Yeah, you guys saw the announcement. Big announcement. There's lunch today. All those hands that were waving, you want to stay. Eh? That's all I'm going to say. You want to stay. Do not leave Lunch is a madly, madly great thing up in here. So just stay. So you've got your own testimony. Don't say they told you. Stay. Just stay. That's the first announcement. Next announcement that we have is a God and Nature outing. And that's going to be on the 6th of April, which is next week, Sabbath, at the Rietfontein Nature Reserve, which is at number 138 Hawkins Street in Pozo, which is not too far from here. So if you can take a photo, you can go to Metro website, Instagram, Facebook, you'll see this is updated. Please come and dress in shorts and slops, not ties and jackets. We are in nature. So join us next week, that's what's happening next week. And then we're gonna have thanks.
These are the jazziest children I know, influenced by the church band. The best jazz band in town, by the way. You did say amen to them, but it's fine. You should. Are there any children missing? Okay. No, it's fine. No, it's fine, please. The story I'm going to tell you today is something that when I first learned about it myself, I thought it is something amazing. The story is not just only for us. Today we are generous. We're also going to share with the other big children. Because you the small children, the rest are big children of God. CJ is saying I'm big. You better recognize that. Are you also big? You're 6. 3, that means big, okay. Okay, no, I'll get it. So, there's something very, very important. As long as I was growing up as a child, I used to have this house that I used to love to visit. It's my grandmother's house. Grandma's house used to have the best furniture. A lot of it though was in plastic. You sit on the seats. I do not know when we really enjoy the real seat because you're always slippery according to whatever you have. The table always covered, but it's precious furniture, you must know. And other ones you cannot afford to sit in it because maybe the leg is not, but it's still beautiful. So the things that my grandmother used to have is something called some vases. How many of you know a vase, what a vase is? A vase, okay. It's a vase. Yeah, maybe, and you're right. The story is maybe some other kids may not know what a vase is. Okay, it's a vase. So something of that nature. What happened if you had something of that nature and you broke it? Okay, so I think you got the picture of the story. So now, in my visiting around the world, I went to a country called Japan. How many of you know Japan? What language do they speak? They speak Japanese. Okay. And in Japan, there's a place called Kyoto. Kyoto is an old city that specializes in ceramic, some of the most beautiful vases are made there. And sometimes you can go to a museum we're going to find some of the oldest verses verses that have ever been made. So now, this is precious Japanese pottery. As we move to the next slide, just keep looking. Look at that. You can see, like this one is made by, and I want us to see how well you can read Japanese. Like this one.
Toshiba Japanese ceramics white heron crop.
So that's not Japanese yet. The next one is okay. A Japanese lesson for you. When you read this, you must say Shimuzu. You're saying like a South African. Say Shimuzu. Good. Shimuzu show. Then Shimuzu touching stone Japanese pottery. This is made by a man called Shimizu. That's his name. So when you see that name, it's because he made it, but he made it out of stone. And then put the stone, and then he put some nice. What is pottery made of? Good. Some nice clay balls, very thin, but the other one is just stone. Next. Now, let's read that name. Shamikuri, you've been watching American. Okay. This is Shigakari Ware. That's the name of the man. Is it beautiful? And the next one is made by Koseto Kamakura. That's how you say it. Now, this one is one of the oldest that you've ever seen. Let's keep moving. Next one is, now, this is ancient. This is what you find only. You'll never find that being sold. It's in a museum. It's a flask-shaped vase made by Yatsushiro Ware Edo in the 18th century. How old were you in the 18th century? You weren't even born.
Still in God's mind.
Let's keep going. Now, this is made by Raku Chawan, Japanese pottery. Next, please. Now, here's something also very precious. What is this? Ancient Japanese German pottery vessel worth. This is just the last price it was worth, and it's worth how much? $4,000 to $6,000. How much is that in rands? Yo is the word. It's fine. Unless it's in rands, it's like yo. Because it's quite old. And the next one, let's say the name. Good. Akiko Salmon. It's a bottle, but it's one of the oldest that has been made. Next slide, please. Okay. You're good. So, yes. I'm gonna rush through this. Then the next slide, please. What happens when it's broken? Okay, when you break, you've been troubled there, CJ. You've been troubled. Do you know what the Japanese do that is so unique? If ever a vase gets broken, do you know what the Japanese do? Here we throw it away, right? Yeah, they're in trouble. But what do? The Japanese take the broken pieces together and they put them into the next slide to the workshop for repairs. They repair it, they don't throw it away. Why? Go to the next slide. These broken pieces, as you see them, they are not very easy. You cannot use your sticky glue. Right. The next slide is, you see, Now, this is called picking up the pieces of your lives. Okay, let's move to the next slide because this one I made it too slow. It's going to take too much time. Getting very impatient. I command you. Now I'm going to introduce it to a new word. Everybody in this whole church say Kintsugi. So in English is fine. Just read the Japanese only. Kin is a word for gold. And even when the Japanese speak about money, they talk about kin. The word kin is for money. Kintsugi. Tsugi is what ties together, is a bond. If I say Suki, it means we are together, you and me. If I say I Tsuki, it means I love you, we are together. The word for love is I in Japanese. I Tsugi. That means you and I are. Can you do that? Okay, good. It means you're still attending. So now what do? The Japanese take the vase and then they tie it together using what? Gold. Move to the next slide. Now, when I first saw something like this, it was like, wow. Exactly. CJ, you cannot stress it anymore. The trouble. Yes, CJ understands trouble. So look at this. Yeah, are you still reading? So I was showing them doing it so that you don't think I made this story up, okay? Now, here's what happens. The Japanese will take more time with the broken vase and use gold to repair it. So as the more complicated, the more broken it is, the more gold they use. And you see that is all that you see is not just the art that was drawn, it was the gold in between to put it together. Now look at that plate. It was one of the most unique plates ever, and then they put it together using gold. So let's move to the next slide. India. So here's one of my favorites as well. Let's move to the next slide. So here's how one of the women doing it. She's speaking in Japanese, but you don't have to worry because you don't have to hear what she's saying. But she's explaining the process. She gets gold, and people who do this are skilled people who specialize in doing this. So that's how she's doing it live. Look at that. This is the one she repaired, and she's repairing another one for someone. So you're thinking about how they dig for gold here. They let others dig, and then they just collect, and then they send it to them. So then here's the whole reason for this. The newly repaired pottery is taken to be displayed and is priced even more expensive than it was before it broke. And that's what happens when you are taken back into the potter's house. You become more valuable than you were before, not because of what you've done. It is because of who has done what to you. So the potter's hands are our Heavenly Father's hands of second chances. So what happens is, if anything has been broken, the Lord uses the best material there is because you are the best of what He has made in creation. So if anything goes wrong, all of us children, if you've been broken, the Lord knits you together with gold and displays you more expensive than you were because of the work that was put in you. So second chances are God's way of saying, I love you. And so just a reference point is Jeremiah 18, chapter 18, verse 5. When God's message came to me and said, can't I do just as this potter does, people of Israel? God's decree. Watch this potter. In the same way that this potter works his clay, I'll work on you, people of Israel. At any moment, I may decide to pull up a people out of a country by the roots and get rid of them. But if they repent of their wicked lives, I will think twice and start over with them. And at another time, I might decide to plant a people or country, but if they don't cooperate and don't listen to me, I will think again and give up on the plans I have for them. But you know what this means? The Lord just keeps doing it. We mess up, He keeps repairing us. So it doesn't mean let's just always mess up. But it means whatever happens, we are going. Next means look at it. Look at how much gold it needs. The more broken, the more gold you need. Next. You see it all over the place. Oh man, this is impressive. Next. And the next one. Welcome to Metro Church. This is the Potter's house where you get repaired. So remember that. God bless you today. You can go back to your seats. Oh, wait, before we go. Exactly. You suggested come. Come pray with me. Okay, who else is going to pray? Alright. Yes, calls my pastor.
Heavenly Father, thank you for this wonderful day. Thank you that you brought us to church safely. Help us to do the right thing. Help us to listen to our parents. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Uncle Vic, for that fantastic children's story, young and old. I think we all learned a valuable lesson. Last night we had an Empower Her session right here at church. And it was on wholeness. It was on wholeness. And Uncle Vic, your children's story this morning couldn't have been more fitting. We spoke about what we consider to be whole, what it means to feel whole, how we'll act. And this morning, I'm just glad that my life is in the potter's hands, and that no matter how broken I am, the potter not only puts us back together, but he uses gold, or things more valuable than gold. So with that, I'd like to usher in, I think, to our I Intercede slot this morning. And during I Intercede, we not only thank God for the blessings in our life, but we also pray, petition on behalf of others, we intercede on behalf of family, of co-workers, or friends. So I'd like to open up the floor this morning to a few hands. If you have a testimony, if you have a praise giving, if you have a prayer request, please feel free to share with the church at this moment. I'm going to start on my right, if you don't mind.
Morning, church. I've got three quick ones. The first one is a prayer of thanks. It's Misha's 5th birthday on Tuesday. Can't believe 5 years has gone by quickly. And then the second one is for my helper's daughter. She's 14 and going through a lot of trouble. And we're not sure if drugs is an issue or if she's dealing with depression or whatever it is, and she hasn't opened up to anybody. So I'm just going to ask that you please pray for her and for my helper, because she's basically a single mom. And my last prayer request is for myself. I've shared with some people already, and I know last year I shared about my boss having been retrenched. Subsequent to that, I was asked to apply for the position. It's a big thing because it's the Chief Learning Officer of the organization for the Southern Africa region. And it's not something I asked for, and not something I was chasing after either. But obviously God has seen it fit that I need to step up. I've always remained in the background. And so I've applied, and then we're going to go through the interview process, which is going to be rigorous. I'm just going to ask if the church can pray, and also just thank God in advance for just setting this up for this.
Anybody else on the side? While I'm here? All right, Fifi, I saw your hand at the back.
Morning, church. This whole week, God has been bugging me to say this today, and I don't really share a lot during our intercede, but Uncle Vic's story just kind of confirmed that God God needed me to say this. Mine is a prayer of thanks twofold. First, for the spirit of intercession. I don't think we understand how we impact other people's lives when we pray, but just to share with you this week, as most couples do, Dima and I had a fight. I didn't know what I was going to say, but we had a fight this week. It was pretty bad. And we were both in our feelings about whatever it was that we were fighting for. And we were not going to apologize to each other. Incidentally, while we were both angry with each other, I got 2 Instagram DMs from 2 pastors who I don't talk to. I don't have their numbers in my phone, so the only way they could communicate was via Instagram. And they're in 2 completely opposite parts of the world, so they could not have colluded to message me. But 2 people randomly messaged me, and all they said, the both of them, was, "Hi, just wanted you to know that I'm praying for you." That's it. On the same day, Dima also got a message from Alex, and he said the same thing, "I'm praying for you." And to me, it really humbled me to the fact that even when I can't talk to God, and I'm so angry and in my feelings that I want to talk to God, but I can't, He's so merciful that He says, "You know what, you can't talk to me, but let me find someone who can talk to me on your behalf." So I want to thank God for intercession and encourage us to continue to pray for each other. You don't know what it is that your prayers can do. It was through those prayers that eventually we were able to humble ourselves and apologize to each other, and we're fine. Through those prayers, I believe. The second thing that I wanted to also just thank God for, in line with what Uncle Vic was saying, is that it's not often that we find people who can see the good in us even though we're broken. And I just want to thank God for giving me someone in my life who has seen the gold in me and the good in me, even though I'm broken, even though sometimes we fight, even though sometimes, I'm a bit hard-headed and stubborn. But I just want to be thankful to God that He has given me someone who's still able to see the good in me, even though I'm broken.
Thank you, Ruthie, for being vulnerable enough to share. Church, I'm going to continue. Elder Errol, I see your hand. Oh, before Elder Errol, I'm going to have to film it.
Morning, church. A couple of weeks ago, I asked for prayer for my gran who was set to undergo a bit of a hectic operation. The surgery took place on the 18th of March and it went successfully. About 3 days after that, she was back to her stubborn, I can do everything self. But ever since then, she kept complaining about excessive pain. That we could not trace what it was linked to until this past Wednesday. I did some treatments on her that I used to do for myself. We know how I used to be. And immediately, like at the end of that day, after doing all these treatments, then she just started releasing a lot of blood. So we discovered that she was having internal bleeding. But the greatness of this whole experience was we kept asking ourselves what's going on, because she was okay, but like she kept complaining about this persistent pain. And that morning I just prayed and said, "Lord, please," because we don't want to take her through. She's old, she's 81, taking her through all of these, going to the doctor's scenarios. And then God just reminded me, "Hey, remember you used to do this?" So I did that, and she's now fine. What could have killed her? I mean, internal bleeding is something that kills a lot of people quite easily. The fact that God kept her for a good 10 days after surgery, and for it to just escape the body naturally without her having to undergo surgery again for them to take care of it. So I'm just grateful that God has given us means in nature to take care of our bodies. Like, not everything needs a pill.
Good morning, church. So the last time I was here, I spoke about how God had basically brought me here and given me, or rather given the preacher on the day a message specifically about what I was dealing with, or the space that I was at the time. And I asked the church to pray with me for an answer as to whether or not to proceed or to wait. And so this morning is just a thanksgiving because God actually answered me. And He did it very hastily. And so just a word of encouragement to whoever is unsure of whether or not to act on a situation. Trust God, because if you pray to God, He always comes through for you and gives you an answer that is very clear and very vivid. So trust God, pray about whatever situation it is that you're in, and He'll guide your footsteps.
Good morning, saints of God. I'd like us to remember Auntie Juanita and Uncle Dave in prayer. Many of you may be aware that she is undergoing extreme pain as a result of the osteoporosis that she has. We thank God that she's having a G-scope. I'm not sure what that actually means, but some kind of internal happening on Monday. She lives in incredible pain. It's a constant thing, and it's a very difficult time for Uncle David, as many of you would know. They're a wonderful couple, but this is a very difficult period of their lives. And so I just want to ask that the church remember Auntie Juanita in prayer, as she will be going into the hospital on Monday. And we pray that the doctors will be able to find a solution to the problem that's been ailing her for decades and is getting worse.
Anybody else? Yes, sir. Good morning, church. I just like to say thank you to God. There's a lot of things going in my life, which I actually not sure how to. I want to testify, but I'm still praying and how God can just touch my mind and my tongue, so that I will be able to share. But what I actually just want to say is God is real, and I've experienced Him. I've seen Jesus, and I'm so grateful that I had that opportunity. My mind, words cannot express the feeling that is going inside of me. It's like I want to explode, but I don't know how to express. But I just want to say thank you to God for His realness in my life, and the people that I'm touching, and the people that I'm praying for, and how God just comes through. Thank you. I'm wrapping up.
Good morning and happy Sabbath. So I need to thank God for my wife. It's her birthday today. We've got people in the audience here that know me from when I just came into the church, and I'm a very different person today than I was 18 years ago. I want to thank God for His mercy on my life. I was headed in a certain direction, and I met a certain young lady that I fancied. And when you meet someone for the first time, you're attracted by the way they look. We men. But there was so much more to this package that God knew that I didn't know. But what He's done year after year is He's shown me more and more and revealed more and more. And 16 years of marriage, 3 beautiful sons, and having a son pray during the service really, makes my heart so happy. So I want to thank God for Romaine, for her life, for the fact she's 5 years younger than me, but she teaches me so much. Yes. She's taught me so much. And to thank Him for leading her to me, for blessing me and the family, and just the strong woman that she is. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Very inspired one. Michelle.
I want to ask the church to remember in prayer a dear friend of mine. She's 19 years old. This week she had a surgery for aneurysm, and during recovery she had a stroke. Her name is Kate. She's in Australia. Please remember her in prayer. Remember her mother, also Marie. They're really going through a very difficult time. Let us pray that she will be well and that there is no significant damage as a result of this treatment.
going to ask us all to kneel as we pray. Please. Lord, you heard the cry of your children. This morning there were thanksgivings, there were happy testimonies, celebrating life, celebrating accomplishments or the possibilities of promotions. And Lord, we thank you for that. We thank you that you're a God that blesses us in spite of ourselves, Lord. That it's not up to us to earn those blessings, but that you just them down on us all the same. So thank you for just being a merciful God. But Lord, this morning I wanna bring the petitions of requests to your feet, Lord. You heard a multitude of requests for healing, for prayer, for intervening, for working a miracle in the lives of those who have testified and requested, as well as those who haven't, Lord. Lord, I pray this morning that you will touch the medical field, the doctors, the surgeons. You'll touch their hands, Lord. You have enabled them to work miracles on your behalf. You give them the mind, the skill, the insight to know just what to do to heal our magnificent bodies that you have created. So Lord, this morning I just ask and I plead and I beg of you to intervene and go before, and if it is your will, Lord, to heal, to restore, just to touch the lives of those who are struggling. Lord, we have family, we have loved ones, we have friends in hospital right now. You know the severity of everyone's conditions. So Lord, I just pray that you will touch their lives. You will heal them and you will see fit to help them again in strength. Lord, I pray that we will have a blessed Sabbath further. Thank you for the gift of life and the gift of celebrations and the gift of praising, Lord. And may we not forget, maybe remember that the Sabbath is here to praise you and just thank you for the blessings that you've done in our lives. So I pray that you will be with us throughout this service. I pray this in your humble name. Amen.
Good morning, church. Happy Sabbath. So Psalms 100 tells us to come into God's presence with thanksgiving and praise, and to be thankful for everything that we have. And why? Because He calls us His sheep in His pasture, and He is the shepherd. And the shepherd, what does the shepherd do? He protects, he provides for his sheep and makes sure that they are taken care of. At the end of the psalm it says, for the Lord is good. And how many of you in the audience here today can say that God is good? I'm grateful for everything that He has done for me and my family and for those around me. Many answered prayers, many comforting thoughts and time with Him. And I want to thank God for everything He has done in my life. So whenever we worship God in any form, whether it be singing, whether it be through the word, whether it be through giving, that we worship Him as He deserves, with much thankfulness in our hearts, remembering what He has done for us. So with those words, I'd like the deacons to collect the offering. We have a bank account for Metro. The details are on the screen. Please send proof of payment to our treasurer. We also have different ways of giving at Metro. We've got a POS machine at the back, as well as a snap scan and zapper stickers behind your seats. Remember, these are only for offering for Metro. Thank you, Christy.
To
Holy One. Give thanks because He's given Jesus Christ, His Son. Give thanks with a grateful heart. Give thanks to the Holy One. Give thanks because He's given Jesus Christ, His Son. And now let the weak say, I am strong. Let the poor say, I am rich because of what the Lord has done for us. And now let the weak say, I am whole. Let the bound say, I am free because of what the Lord has done for us. Give thanks. Give thanks with a grateful heart. Give thanks to the Holy One. Give thanks because He's given Jesus Christ, His Son. Give thanks with a grateful heart. Give thanks to the Holy One. Give thanks because He's given Jesus Christ, His Son. And now let the weak say, I am strong. Let the poor say, I am rich because of what the Lord has done for us. And now let the sick say, I am whole. Let the bound say, I am free because of what the Lord has done for us. Give
Thank you, Father, for your mercy. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your provision. Thank you for your protection, Lord. Thank you for everything you do for us. We praise you, Lord, for your goodness. And we say, what a mighty God we serve. Ask you to bless the offering and the tithe that was given, returned to you. We ask you to use it for its intended purposes and to further your word. We ask all of these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Well, once again, it's time for us to sing praises. Amen. I said it's time for us to sing praise. Amen. By the way, Shakar, we have practiced this afternoon. Just reminding you, Shakar's our youth choir. Youth choir. So just emphasis there on the youth. One day we'll form the choir, but for now, youth, if you're 35 and under, it's welcome. If you know how to sing. I'm the only one who has got the concession to be above that age group. But it's time for us to sing, and our first song is it's an golden oldie, I Am Coming, Lord.
I hear thy welcome voice that calls.
both firsts. This is also for my praise team.
Sure.
It goes like this. I hear thy welcome voice that calls me, Lord, to thee, for cleansing in thy precious blood that flowed on Calvary. I am coming, Lord, coming now to thee. Wash me, cleanse me in the blood that flowed on Calvary. Though coming quick and mild, thou dost my strength assure. Thou dost my partners fully cleanse, till spotless, whole and pure. I am coming, Lord, coming now to thee. Wash me, cleanse me in the blood that flowed on Calvary. 'Tis Jesus calls me now to perfect faith and love, to perfect hope and peace and trust, for earth and heaven above. I am coming, Lord. Oh, let me walk within my heart, as in a broken days of old. Place now my trembling hand in mine, and speak from you, and bring me home with all the path I may not see. Yet Jesus, let me walk with thee. I cannot dare not walk alone, but help the strangers in the sky. 1,000 steps beset my feet, 1,000 folds are lurking nigh. Still by the raging of the sea, oh Master, let me walk with thee. If I may rest my head in thine, I'll count the joys of earthward loss, and firmly reign we journey on. I'll bear the banner of the cross, till Zion's glorious gates I see. Yet Savior, let me walk with thee. Amen, church. Amen, Dando. We have to get the right key. Amen, church. Blessed this name. G. Give us G. So this is how the rhythm of this song must go, guys, because it's got this feel to it. Yeah? You need da. Got it? That's the rhythm I want. And some acoustic there. struggle when something's just not working. Hey, go to F and maybe we slow it down. Yeah. Yes.
Watch and see the light is shining, bright as still upon thy way. Signs through all the earth are gleaming, omens of the coming day. When the jewel trumpet sounding shall awake from land and sea, all the saints of God are sleeping, and immortality. Dingi when he said to say, Estelo, Azimeli, Alleluia, Tabisa, Emani, Yasedeli, Lalera, Vayatabela, Uyeza, Emoyeni, Estiti, Ziaframela, Masina, Soanazo.
Let's sing our last song, which is Live Out the Life. And I think one of the prayers that we perhaps may have forgotten to mention during our series, the victims of the cyclone, Mozambique, Malawi, and Zim. I was in Zim this past weekend to visit on business actually, and I was able to catch up with fellow brothers, and I must tell you how frustrating it can get sometimes when the church doesn't move or doesn't act. It's very bureaucratic. To the extent where members of the church end up doing things individually outside of church structure because the church wants to be popular or seem to be doing things in the media. And I hope that as a metro church that connects and grows and serves, we can do things slightly differently. When things happen, we can act fast. We can forget about denominationalism and just connect with people for the good of those who are struggling. It took over a week for the church just to meet and discuss and get political, and really upset me when the amount of money was raised was $4,000 in a week for an entire conference and 60 bottles of cooking oil to a place where 144,000 people are affected. But outside of that, church members donated millions and millions of US dollars, but the system couldn't be trusted. And I hope that as a metro church, we don't wait for a disaster to happen, at least at that level, that we begin now to set up some fund of some sort that says, if something happens, and it doesn't have to be that catastrophic, it could be that a church in Alexandria needs water, that we have something we can contribute. That's a crisis for them. And so this song speaks about the Lord living His life through us. And part of that is being aware of what's going on around us. And not waiting for ADRA to do something. But then we become the foot soldiers. Then we participate, that we act. And I hope this song will inspire us to that type of action.
Oh Jesus, King of Kings, be thou thyself the answer to all my questionings. Let Live out thy life within me, oh Jesus, King of kings. Be thou the glorious answer to all my questioning.
I greet you all in the wonderful name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen. Even though I'm filling in for my sister this morning, I feel so privileged to introduce our speaker for today. Her name is Zwonaka Netshifulani. So Changa started preaching at the age of 19, and 10 years later, she's still anointed and appointed by God to do so. Every poem rendered and every sermon shared is a testimony of how much Changa really loves the Lord. And in her own words, she says, I love Jesus. I think he's a really fascinating fellow. And that statement just speaks to the authentic way in which Changa approaches Christianity. She delivers real sermons to real people about a real God. Changa is also a law graduate, an LLB graduate. She works as a researcher and she's currently working at the State Capture Commission, #Newsy. So after our hymn of meditation, we'll hear from Changa herself.
Show me your face, fill up this space. My world needs you right now. My world needs you right now. I can't escape being afraid. Fill me with you right now. My world needs you right now. Power fall down. Bring with it a sound that points us to you right now. Erase substitutes right now. Fix what I see.
today's sermon is very difficult, I think, for me personally. And I fought God about it quite a lot. It's very easy to preach from the Old Testament because people just sort of take allegories and you make analyses and you make metaphors out of it and all of that. So it's very easy. And I was resisting the sermon so hard. I was willing to preach a sermon on the New Testament, which is really, really difficult. Anything to dodge preaching about this. But God drags his preachers first and the audience second. And the reason why, so I used to work at the Constitutional Court. I worked at the Constitutional Court until about a year ago. And in December of the previous year, we delivered a very famous or infamous judgment known as the EFF judgment. And the EFF had come to court. They wanted us, I don't know, to set Jacob on fire for the millionth time, whatever it was. And they come to court and they make this prayer. Can we please do 1, 2, 3, and 4? And Justice Zondo, the judge that I work for, was supposed to write the judgment. And he writes a judgment that I agree with, not because I researched it, but because it was right. And he wrote a judgment, but he did not get the majority vote from the other 10 judges. And the majority vote is the one that becomes the judgment and then becomes the law. So he wrote a judgment, but it became the minority. Justice Jafta then wrote the judgment that became the majority judgment. And when you deliver a judgment in the Constitutional Court, what you do is that you essentially summarize the legal proceedings. So you say that on the 18th of November, the economic freedom fighters approached this court for relief in the following respects. They wanted 1, this, 2, that, 3, that, 4, that, 5, that, etc., etc. And then you say what was said in court, and this is why, as the majority judgment, you disagree with the argument led by the EFF and why you agree with the argument led by so and so, and the Constitution supports it and that supports it, and if you look at this legislation and this history and so on and so forth, you support it and so on and so forth. But then you also have the right as the majority judge to then summarize the other judgments. You can't ignore them. So you would say in a dissenting judgment written by Justice, the Deputy Chief Justice Zondo, he said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. In another dissenting judgment by Chief Justice Mogoeng, concurred in or agreed in by these other judges, he said 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now when you summarize the judgments of the other judges, you are very circumspect because they are criticizing your judgment. So you don't say, Justice Mogoeng thinks my judgment was nonsense, that it should be thrown out and set on fire. It should never be heard in any legal classroom ever again. It should not be taught at any university of the most basic reputation. You say it in a very sort of, tactful way because you're reading the criticism of your judgment or summarizing the criticism of your judgment. So generally speaking, the majority judge is the one that writes the summary of all of the judgments. You don't give it to the person criticizing your judgment to write your judgment. So we're sitting in front, the clock sits in front of the judge, we're sitting in front, and I hear behind me, and I hear the Chief Justice and Justice Jafta whispering something to whispering something behind me, and I'm not sure where it is. And then Justice Jafta interrupts his summary of Justice Mogoeng's judgment, and he starts reading from this piece of paper that the Chief Justice has written. Now, the Chief Justice was not happy, and this is public record, so I can say it, was not happy with the majority judgment, and he called it, in his words, a textbook case of judicial overreach. That is a serious criticism to make of your own court. You're saying that we went so far that we're stepping over the boundary and the separation between government, the executive, and the legislature. I mean the courts, the executive, and the legislature. So essentially, Justice Jafta had to read out loud in front of the whole country his own judgment being called a textbook case of judicial overreach. So Jesus, this week, in the spirit of Justice Mogoeng, is making me read my own dragon. So I'm not looking forward to this sermon. Pray for me, saints. But our scripture is going to come from the book of Matthew chapter 22. Matthew chapter 22. And I'll explain why I'm talking about this in a short moment. Matthew chapter 22 from verse 23 to verse 30. Matthew chapter 22 from verse 23 to verse 30. If you have a digital or you use the Bible app, please do yourself a favor. Go into the Bible app, go to languages, scroll down, look for Jamaican Creole. Download that Bible, and then tonight or tomorrow when you're doing your devotion, press play at the bottom. I promise you, the Sermon on the Mount sounds very different in Jamaican Creole. You haven't read the Bible until you heard Jesus say, "True, true." I'd forgotten about it until I had the gentleman speaking at the back. I was like, that sounds like what Jesus was saying last night in the Sermon of the Mount. No, seriously, for real. I downloaded it, so it's really great. Matthew chapter 22, verse 23 to verse 30, and I'm reading it in the ESV. The same day Sadducees came to him, who say that there is no resurrection, and they asked him a question. So the Sadducees are people that don't believe that there will be a resurrection, right? And they came to him saying, "Teacher, Moses said if a man dies having no children, his brother must marry the widow and raise up offspring for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers among us. The first married and died, and having no offspring left his wife to his brother. So to the second and the third, down to the 7th. After them all, then the woman died." In the resurrection, therefore, of the 7, whose wife will she be? For they all had her. But Jesus answered them, saying, "You are wrong, because you know neither the scriptures nor the power of God. For in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven." About 2 weeks ago, a friend of mine wrote on Facebook, what's the weirdest or the wildest Facebook story you've ever heard? And Pastor Ronald said, some guy pulled out and God killed him. The story of old man in Genesis chapter 38. For the record, this will not be a PG sermon. So if you do not want your kids asking you, "Mommy, did you have a friend with benefits when you were growing up?" You have about 10 seconds to get them out of the room. No? Cool. I'm not responsible for what happens after this. The title of today's sermon is "Why We Must Rejoice in Singleness." Why we must rejoice in singleness. I don't particularly like being single. I've been here for a couple of years. I think I know how it feels. I'm very much over it. I'm keen to understand what it feels like to live in a dual income household. Hallelujah, somebody. I would like to apply for a bond, somewhere outside of the Johannesburg CBD. I would like to know how it feels when you don't have money on the 25th, but the husband does. I'm very keen to experience those types of things, to say my husband and I. Ever had those when they get engaged, all of a sudden my husband and people get really mature after they get married. You ever notice? They start giving everybody life advice. I'm like, not even married for 5 minutes. I don't know where your husband was last night. You're your whole life. And I've also noticed that there's no one who prays with as much intensity as a married woman. I don't know what your husbands are doing to you at home, but if you want a powerful prayer, get a married woman up here. You will be in tears. You will be moved. You will hear all the names of God, including the ones you didn't know He had. The woman will pray for you from the tips of your toes to the last inch of your Peruvian. You will feel it in your spirit. I have been covered in the. I don't know what these men are doing to these women, but married women, y'all, married women can pray. Now my prayer is, God, thank you very much for the day. Thank you for the 7th day. Thank you for the food. Thank you for the flowers and the sunshine and the job and so on and so forth. Married woman, our Father who is from everlasting to everlasting. Hey, get $10, guys. I don't know what is happening. Sometimes I'm like, oh, you're married. Then I hear married women. I'm like, just think I'm missing much. But on a serious note, I have a very serious concern, and I've had a very serious concern for a long time about the way in which the church deals with, or rather does not deal with, singleness. You walk into any Christian bookstore, you will find books on blended families. You will find books on divorce. You will find books on widowhood. You will find books on things that might not need to be in a Christian bookstore as well. You will not find, and I've looked, a single book talking about singleness. And whenever they do talk about singleness, it's always as a preparation place for marriage, but not about efficiency, purpose, fulfillment when you are still single. The church itself also does not address it. You have home and family life day, you have family seminars. If you've ever been, I've been to a singles retreat, those things are dry. Dry. The food, the preaching, the whole thing is dry. It's God loves you and that's pretty much it. And then you have 3 or 4 women who have been divorced and they'll tell you about how the church sort of started treating them funny afterwards and so on and so forth. And then you have this one lady who's like 67 and has the gift of singleness when in reality ain't nobody trying to marry her. And then that's pretty much it. And then there'll be someone whose name I won't mention who will come and sing gator songs the whole weekend. But as the solos, which sounds very different from when they have the whole crew in the front. So they're extremely dry experiences. But if you go to home and family life seminars, God will get Fitzhenry, who will preach the same sermons he preached at 1998 Pentecost. There will be a full band, a full choir. The sermons will be live and powerful and moving. People will preach in the Hebrew, the Greek, the Creole, all of the translations, and the families walk away feeling revived and reformed and really rejuvenated. And the singles still walk away with a sense of emptiness. And we almost treat them and treat us really like they don't exist. And when you don't talk about people, that's how they feel, that they don't have legitimate struggles, or that they don't have legitimate issues, or that there are no legitimate joys and pleasures and goals and aspirations and happiness to be found in not being married. And I'll tell you why, for some reasons why we must address singleness. Number one, every single counseling session, every single divorce attorney ever hired is engaged before you get married. All of the behaviors that you encourage, that you follow, that you pursue, that you enjoy when you're single determine with absolute certainty whether or not you will be married. There's very little that happens after you jump the broom that could have been changed if it had been a mess from the time you were single. All of your counseling sessions are booked in advance through what you do when you're single. If you have a temper problem when you're single, you're going to see a counselor about your temper problem when you're married. Except now it's not just you getting mad, it's how you're affecting this other person. If you have problems with money and spending, there's going to be a counseling session that you will have to attend about money. If you have some deal breaker principle that you breached or crossed over, or something that you compromised, at some point you're going to have to see a divorce lawyer because you didn't address it when you were single. So there's no point in creating all of these structures, these incredible programs and procedures and policies and things like that for what must happen in marriage if we let people walk into that process, should they walk into that process, not having addressed what they do when they're single. Number two, singleness has contexts outside of marriage. There are vital and incredible gifts that single people have that Jesus cannot access past the Pinterest boards that you have for the dress, the decor, the food, the venue, the counseling sessions, the planning that you have done, that he can't reach and get to inside you because you are so intent on planning and preparing yourself and creating yourself for marriage. All you ever watch, I think we watched that Jackson guy on Facebook. There's some dark-skinned buff guy who always does his videos in a car. I don't know why. But if you ever see your girlfriend watching those videos, by the way, she about to leave you. Just know that. You're about to get dumped, get yourself correct, and figure out what you did wrong quickly. Because if she's watching those videos, you're about to get dumped. Or they always watch those types of things. But we always think that that's all we're supposed to do. You read, listen to No More Sheets by Juanita Bainham. You should watch it, by the way. You listen to all the sort of seminars by TD Jakes. You come to, what's the session that we have here at church? Worth fighting for, etc., etc. You attend all of those things, you take copious notes, your Bible is full, you're walking in prayer, you have your own war room just exclusively for this thing. But God can't get to you and get you to service because all you think about in singleness is using it as a springboard of preparation for marriage. Statistically, the numbers don't add up. Some of us are going to die singing single ladies. And single brothers. No, that's the song that's going to be playing as the funeral custom. It'll be everybody that but singleness has so many contexts, purposes, uses, platforms, things to do and to explore, but we only ever see it as a sort of puberty on the way to marriage. We never sit and fully develop. We never sit and fully grow. We never sit and fully wrestle with God because we're waiting for it to happen. And I see this a lot in my sisters as well. We suspend and delay spiritual development because we think the high priest. Whoever, you ain't never seen that brother pray not once, but you're sure he's a high priest. But you wait intently and delay your own personal spiritual development because you are waiting for the covering of this high priest that might or might never come. And it worries me because I see less and less Adventist women reading. I was listening to a debate on submission the other day, or reading a debate on submission the other day. And women were fighting and going, no, submission is terrible, and I'm never going to submit, etc., etc. If you read Ephesians 5, properly, and play the Jamaican Creole version out loud, I'm serious, you really need to. You don't know what you're missing. Yes. And if you read, like, for example, if you talk about the concept of submission, everybody thinks that submission is some sort of dominating, subservient, slave thing that you do once you get married. But Jackie Hill Perry said something, and I've never forgotten it. She said, you would not know Jesus if he was not submissive. Because the only way that the Father could make him come here was that Jesus willingly submitted to the will. So it never was and is not the sort of lessening of your station or you becoming second or a second, class human. Because Christ himself is saying, be submissive, not like a woman, but be submissive like me. Because I myself am submissive to the will of the Father. We wouldn't know Christ, but they are so easy because we don't read. As Adventist women, we're waiting for this high priest to show up one day soon and do all the reading and the covering and the washing and water through the word for us one day. And then we have these sort of debates about things that really don't exist. I used to hate the Apostle Paul growing up. I thought he was a chauvinist and a misogynist, and he and I still have a few things to iron out when I get to heaven. But I realized it was because I had let other people interpret him for me, and they interpreted him from their own personal biases. In African culture, women are very submissive, and it usually is the kind of submissiveness that is, no, yeah, whatever you want about. And people, when they interpret it, we interpret it through the lens of our culture, but that's not how the Bible was seeing it or was reading it in that way. And so I let people impose those misconceptions onto me. But if we're being perfectly honest, the Bible calls men to love their wives as Christ loved the church. And I don't know if you know what happened to Christ after he loved the church. We killed him. So personally speaking, I'm very happy on the submissiveness side of things. Just say yes, I have no problem. I don't have any worries. Let's move to Mogadishu. Yes, we just go and work and fix cyclone in die. Yeah, Baba. Whatever you want. The dying Christ love the church business now. We don't bring about that. So I'm very happy. I'm very happy with it. But singleness has context outside of marriage that we struggle to access because of that. Number 3, the reason why we must also address singleness is because it blinds us to our spiritual development and other aspects. You ask any single person what the single biggest thing that they need to deal with is, and they'll say, I say, exactly, you'll say sex. Apparently, that's all we have to deal with. There's 10 commandments, and we're focused on what is number 7, number 8. Thou shalt not commit adultery. You're envious, you're bitter, you're petty, you can't regulate your tongue, you refuse to be taught, You cannot serve in church. You are slovenly at work. You disgrace the name of God in so many other aspects. You have all sorts of strange, weird issues and sins that you're struggling with. But we can't see them because we are so bound and held by the belief that in singleness, the only sin you must fight is the desire to sleep with other people. And that's not it. That is not the only sin that you need to deal with. You need to deal with the fact that you are a toxic friend, that you are not able to be in a healthy relationship with other people. You need to deal with the fact that you have parental issues and you haven't spoken to your mother in 10 years and you don't know how to forgive and you don't know how to engage with those things. You need to talk about the fact that you still don't know that brown accessories go with navy blue suits. That's what you need to still need to deal with the fact that you should not be getting your nails done in Braamfontein. Your fingers are going to fall. We still need to deal with the fact that everybody can see what lace. The lace is right there. I can see it from here. You still need to deal with those smaller things that are going to prevent you from getting into the kingdom. Marawena, all you're worried about is making sure that your legs are closed. And that is just one of the many dysfunctions that you need to deal with and address and take to God. You don't return tithes faithfully. You don't know how to be a steward of time and money. At work, you are an embarrassment to the faith. You bring God's name into disrepute on a regular basis. You might be a single parent. You are raising that kid. And you think and you are convinced that the only thing that you need to focus on is keeping your legs closed. And it blinds us to the other aspects of spiritual development that we need to go on, because all we are ever taught is be pure. Don't watch porn. Don't do this. Don't do that. And so on and so forth. So we need to address singleness as a church because there are many dysfunctions that are spreading through the church, through single people. But we're not dealing with them because we told them all they need to do is to make sure that they're not sexually active. But even that is not enough just to prepare them for the small 40, 50-year marriage that they'll have on earth. You tell them to be pure and that's pretty much it. But sex is like what, 10, 50, I don't know, I don't know marriage. 10, 15% of the entire marriage? People who are married, please confirm. If it's 60%, by all means, Viva, get your blessings with. I just keep saying sex is worship. I'm like, no, it's not. Don't bring the angels into your nastiness. But we don't even prepare people for the character development necessary for getting into marriage efficiently. You simply tell them, don't have sex, and you think that that is enough to prepare them into marriage. You don't tell young men what to do the day their wives start earning more than they do. How do you deal with that issue? You don't tell a young man who grew up in an abusive household, sweetheart, you don't use fists to resolve issues. You want to deal with it after counseling, when they're married and now cannot get divorced because marriage is forever. You want to tell young people about how to deal with finances once a year, that's stewardship day, and this is how you must handle it, and so on and so forth. But people are now being made bankrupt. Their salaries and their pensions are being attached because they got married in community of property with somebody who did not know how to handle money. And we don't address it before because we just say, just don't have sex and you'll be ready for marriage. We also need to deal with it because there are a lot of single people who are unable to approach the throne of grace because they feel so deeply ashamed about their sexual pasts. We have people who feel unworthy because they are no longer virgins. And we have people who feel like they're no longer marriage material, whatever that material is. Kids church. I'm sure kids church. Kids church is marriage material. Who don't feel like they are the full 6 meters of marriage material because they have been sexually active. You have young men who are incapable, not because there's a word I want to use, it starts with an F and ends with boys, but we all know what the word is. And they struggle because no one ever taught them that, listen, the rules on sexual purity don't just apply to young women. They apply to the brothers too. They can't control their sexual appetites. She gets pregnant, she's not willing to have people all up in her business in the last 2 weeks or so. There's 6 weeks where she's unable to be physically intimate, and the dude just can't cope. Because at no point did we sit down and say, listen, this is how you manage sexual appetite, desire, and so on and so forth. We never have those conversations. How do you communicate effectively with others? How do you set up boundaries in friendship so you don't have to set them up after you're married? How do you do all of those things? All of a sudden, you ever seen how when your friends get married, all of a sudden your relationship shifts? You could hug her husband before, but now you got a side eye? You could come over whenever you wanted, but now no Tapila Ukoskazi does not sleep outside the home. When did that happen? And we don't do that because we make this abrupt, short, quick change from Miss to Mrs. or from Mr. to Mr. So we must address singleness because it has such a massive effect, not just on singles, but on the body of Christ as a whole. If one single is unable to deal with their sexual appetite, at the very least, there's one other person that they have now infected with that issue. If one single person breaks somebody's heart to such an extent that they are no longer able to come to church and look Rafile in the eye because she stole my man, that is 3 people now harmed by me not teaching people how to deal with singleness effectively. So it has a massive effect, not just on individuals, but on the body of Christ as a whole, and we don't address it enough. So, several reasons why we must rejoice in singleness. Number 1, so that it does not kill our joy. There is this beautiful man called Jesus who comes and dies for you, lives for you, but you can't see him because you feel so empty, so unchosen, so unworthy, so single, so lonely, so unloved, so invisible, so non-existent, partially because the church never pretends that you don't exist, but also because you feel that you are not whole until you have this other person in your life. And it steals our joy in Christ. And it infects our relationship with him with a kind of anger and a rage towards him. That you don't love me like you love so-and-so. You don't like me like you like so-and-so. Because if you had, you would have given me marriage. Is there something wrong that I am doing? Why aren't you and I happy with each other, Jesus? Because you are withholding this thing from me. We must learn to rejoice in singleness so that it does not steal our joy in Christ. Number 2, so that we may live free of envy. So that we may live free of envy. Unable to congratulate our friends on their children, on their marriages, on their happiness, on their health. Because you don't understand how she had 7 abortions, 28 baby daddies, 6 friends with benefits, 12 sugar daddies, and she got married, but she didn't. So we may escape from the sin of envy, from saying to God that I have done all of these things, I have earned the present or the gift or the recognition or the reward that is marriage. But you gave it to Zwonaka, who we all know is an HO. And I don't understand why you gave it to her, but you didn't give it to me. And you are no longer able to be in relationship or in friendship or in any kind of communion, Christian or otherwise, with this woman because you feel like God gave her a gift that should have come to you. That's what envy is, when you feel like God misallocated resources and gave somebody my blessing. That's what envy is. It was supposed to be mine. You gave it to the wrong person. Number 3, so we do not live angry at God. There has never been a time where I have fallen into any kind of sin where it wasn't motivated by some kind of rage towards God. Or you won't forgive. It's not all the people who are not like that. Go Google my level. And I get angry at God, like, oh, you won't give me a husband. I'm gonna date the tatted up, drugged up. So there's nothing wrong with tattoos. It's not shade. By the way, I'm not sure anybody. But I'll get the drunkard, drug dealing, everybody shagging, never going to church, the worst little snake I can think of and find. And I'm going to show you, Jesus, that I don't need you to make me happy. or to give me marriage, and I'll go get it myself, and I'll marry the man I want, and we won't be happy without you, and we don't need your blessing, and we don't need your anointing, and we don't need to build our family on the solid rock that is you. We're going to figure it out, and we're going to do it. You can keep your marriage, you can keep your husband, you can keep your Boaz, and I don't need no wedding either. And to avoid that kind of constant rage and simmering anger at God that He has withheld this thing from you, that He never promised you, by the way. God said, listen, you won't go to hell. I'll save you from that. You'll have oxygen. Everything else is pretty much, well, I can give it to you, or not, or I can't, or I won't. Wealth, not promised. An easy life, not promised. Happiness, not promised. The only thing that He promises is that you will survive and you won't die permanently. You will come to it. That's it. Everything else is pretty much discretionary. He has the option of doing it. But we go and hold this thing against Him that I want this thing. But at no point did He say, no, I guarantee that I'm going to give it to you. It's very different from when you say, God, I return tithe. Why am I struggling financially? Because that's a promise that He made. He said blessings will fall. They're not flowing out of any storehouse, not out of my wallet, not out of Investec, not out of Liberty, not out of what is going on. You can hold God to account for those things. He is morally obligated to sustain that which He promises you. But He never promises you this thing, this marriage thing. Ooh, I'm saying this marriage thing, and we hold it against Him and we hold it to His throat and say, if you don't give this to me, I'll never worship you, I'll never love you, I won't be with you. The thing of the story about Job is not just about taking away material benefits. It's about God withholding that which we think we need for happiness. And in those instances, we're like Job's wife. Why don't you curse God and die? Why don't you sleep with whoever you want to sleep with and potentially die? Yeah, sex will kill you. You know, I was so shocked when I discovered at 17 that cervical cancer can be transmitted during sexual intercourse. I was like, damn, brothers really be trying to kill us. I was so touched. I was just like, y'all are touched. Number 4, so that we do not live life entitled and old. Walking around like spoiled brats that God, you owe me this thing, give it to me. Look at me being pure. Look at me playing with all the kids. Look at me serving at soup kitchens. Look at me staying off of Tinder. Look at me not having shag buddies. Look at me doing whatever it is that you think then makes or forces God to give you this thing that you're after. So that you don't live your life and your relationship and your communion with Christ in constant belief that you are entitled and old, running around like a spoiled brat, that God has not given me this thing and I deserve it. So that we do not live resentful. But also very important, so that we do not live life holding our breath. If you get a job offer from London, if I get a job offer from London right now, I call my parents, I text them, I say, hey, I got a job offer from London. Yeah. That's it. Uncle Errol can't do that. Colette. Of my youth. My love. Mother of Rara and Jordan. First of her name. The sun, the moon to my stars. What happened was, I got a job, and I was wondering, just maybe, perhaps you just might want to think about this. How do you feel about moving to LA with me in 2 weeks? You can't just do that. I can. There's not a soul I need to consult with about anything. If I decide tomorrow that I want to up and go to Bali for 6 weeks, I can up and go to Bali for 6 weeks. Tube cannot go up to Ghana and be like, hi, Nyahamba for 6 weeks, I just want some alone time. Fool, you're going to be alone forever if you go out on some alone time. So when they can't go up to Nzuzo and be like, no, I was really thinking that we should buy another house, or I bought another house. That's not a decision. Those are not things that you can do on your own anymore. You want to do a master's degree in Berlin or serve in the Peace Corps in Argentina? You can do that. You up and leave. You don't consult, you don't ask, you don't question, you don't take in consideration, you don't sort out nannies, you don't check with your bank if you can both afford it, you don't have to talk to your lawyer. There is so much insane freedom in singleness. And we constrain ourselves and hold ourselves and wait and hold our breath. For example, one of my favorite stories in the Bible is the story of David. And my favorite story, and the reason why I love that story so much, is because David was anointed when he was a teenager, right? Like 18, 19, somewhere there. He only became king when he turned 30. That means for 10 years, God says you're going to be king. And for 10 years, he says, but not today. David lived his best life. Got Nabal killed from Palestina, married his wife, led an army, came back, played with politicians in Gad, came back, married another wife, had 3 or 4 kids, came back, led a little bunch of rebels, came back, fought with Saul, came back. David never held his breath. If Jesus had decided at the last minute, as a matter of fact, I don't feel like giving you the kingdom anymore, David would not have been torn apart because he wasn't waiting on it and refusing to move and staying in the statue just waiting for the day that God finally put the crown on his head. He had lived such a full, rich life that he could walk in and out of the kingdom at peace because he wasn't depending on it for his happiness. It never held, it was never the all thing, the one thing that he was holding on to and waiting for with bated breath. And if it had been taken away from him, he would have fallen apart completely. He was cool with it. It was like for 10 years, David was about, he had parties, came back. The man lived his life for those 10 years and didn't hold his breath, waiting for God to give him this thing. And in that instance, God had actually promised the crown. He had actually come and fetched him from in the middle of sheep somewhere in Bethlehem and said, I'm going to make you king. He had a guarantee from God's own mouth that at some point in his life, he was not going to be king. We are out here holding our breath for something that might never happen. In law, there are different ranks of rights. You have real rights, starting from a real right all the way down. And the purpose of it is to determine who you can enforce those rights against. So if you have ownership of something, if something belongs to you, you can enforce those rights against everyone. So everyone must respect your right of ownership. But you can also have real rights in the form of a right of usage. For example, if I have a lease, my lease is usually, no matter how many people buy it, if my lease is for 20 years, the people that buy my property where I live must always respect my lease. And it is enforceable against all people because it is a real right. Then you have things like usufruct, like the right to use the fruits of something. So I have 10 mango trees in my garden and I give you and your descendants a right to come and get the trees from my garden. The tree isn't yours, but you have a right to the fruits. Or you can have a right of a servitude. So for example, I have a piece of land, on this side is the M1, on the other side is the M2, whatever. And unless you go through my land, it takes 45 minutes to get around. I can give you a servitude, a right to go through my land. And that right is enforceable against anybody. So if my right to go through the land is for 100 years, even if the property changes owners every single year, that right still exists because it attaches to the land. You can enforce those types of rights. Then you have things like personal rights, etc., etc. There is a right that you can't enforce against anyone. That's called a spes. In Latin, it's called a spes. And a spes is the hope that somebody will give you something. So, Uncle Errol has a Patek Philippe that I said I wanted. And he said, you know what, Zwonaka, should I ever drop dead, you just go over onto Auntie Colette and she'll give you my Patek Philippe. So I hope, one, that he drops dead soon. Two, that he gives me the Patek Philippe. But it's not written anywhere in his will, it's just a hope that I have. I can walk up to Auntie Colette and say any number of things. It's a hope, it's a space. She is not obligated to respect it. She can say, no, I actually don't feel like it. And even if she was there, I wasn't there when Errol made that commitment to you. You cannot enforce a space. So you cannot go to court and say, no, I had a hope in this thing. So therefore, before you distribute the estate, I must get my portion. It's a hope. It's a space. It has no legal person. It doesn't exist. It's It's you can't do anything with it. It's useless. Same thing with man. It's a hope. You might not get it. You can't enforce it against God. You can't go up to him and say, well, you promised that so on and so forth, and all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord, and I love you, and this is the thing that I want that must work out for my good, and I want my good thing, etc. You can't enforce it. David had an actual, real right. God had said, I promise I will give it to you, and he did not stop living. The man even left Israel, which was where he was supposed to be crowned. Went off and lived in Philistine countries, came back. He was not so attached and so tied to it that he couldn't move. You hear that your crush does not like overly educated women. You graduated summa cum laude with your master's. Oxford is offering you a PhD, fully funded. You refuse to go because what if he says that I've intimidated him too much? You heard that your crush likes vegans. You starve yourself. You make pulled barbecue sandwiches out of jackfruit for 10 years because you heard that your crush likes vegans. But in reality, you flourish the most when your fingers are hand deep in a bowl of wings because you are holding your breath, waiting for this thing to happen one day. You found out that your person likes kids. You can't stand children. They're messy. They get their hands all over you. They touch cats. And they want to come touch you. And they pick up snakes. And they want to go, look what I found. And then off you go, offering to teach collegians for 10 years because you heard that maybe, possibly, perhaps, your crush likes kids. You cannot stand soccer. You think Man United and Man City are one and the same thing. You think the Gunners actually have a gun on the field when they play. You think all classical means they play classical music on the pitch at the day. But you found out that your crush is a really huge fan of Mo Salah. And you just sit there and follow up Mo Salah's statistics from the day he was born in Egypt until present, and you know everything that he's ever done. You know each and every single LeBron James stat. You know that he was MVP for 6 whatever times running, and that his assists are amazing, and they do one. You don't even know what an assist is. Maybe it's like a help me type of person. You know, this guy's really into the Bible. You know, it's even LeBron James is Genesising up there on the court, and I mean, it's just really, really incredible. And you're just so engaged, holding your breath on the basis of space that might not happen. You hear that your crush does not like beards. And off you go. It took you 20 years to get to this. And off you go because you know my crush just might like 1, 2, 3. And we live our lives holding our breath and refusing to live and to expand fully in our purpose because we think that this person might no longer like us or might find us intimidating or might find us difficult if we pursue this. Maybe you were supposed to marry an Oxford graduate. You're out here freaking out about a cat from this. I'm going to say something else. But I know there are people in the house that go to the university as about this. I'm just going to say this. And maybe your husband was at Harvard, but you couldn't go to Harvard because you heard that some random cat who's in first year politics at Wits has a crush on you and you don't want to irritate him or frustrate him. You refuse to grow and expand to the full usefulness of your gifts and your purpose because you are afraid that you might repel this person. You don't know if this person has demons or issues or doesn't watch their back or behind their ears, but you are determined to hold yourself frozen until they one day decide that they might like you. So that we do not live, so we must rejoice in singleness, so we do not live holding our breath, living, holding our breath, refusing to live and to move and to breathe and to move to other countries, explore new frontiers, get new degrees, explore new talents because we are so afraid that this person might stop liking us. You have decided that you want to marry a super trainer, but you really love Ruby Woo. Ruby Woo. You really love Ruby. Super trainers are those super conservative Adventists. Who like super serious, they don't do nails, they don't do braids, they're super conservative type of people. Come talk to me after the service about those people. I have a story to tell you about them. And you decide you're not going to become a makeup artist because no super taller man would marry a makeup artist. Or you have determined in your heart, Wena, just by yourself one day, one morning, you woke up and decided, nah, one day I'm going to be Mama Root. Yeah. You're going to be Mama Root. At home, you're queen twerk, but you are convinced that you're going to be Mama Root. And you break and snap and pull yourself apart into pieces and squash your talent. I'm not saying twerking is a talent. And you squash your talent and your gifts because you have determined in your heart that one day you're going to be a pastor, you're going to be Mama Root, and you will do the little princess wear with the two-piece. Please bring those two-pieces. The two-piece and the hat. And the handbag that matches them, yeah, and the shoes as well, and the pantyhose Mexican silver. Next reason, so that we do not live life feeling unworthy. So that we do not live life feeling unworthy or unchosen or less than or not as important as, or feeling like we are not seen and not heard. This is a very difficult thing for us to do outside of the community of believers that affirm the gifts, the uniqueness, the vitality, the significance, and the importance of all members of the body of Christ, not just the married. So this is more a call to churches and to believers or communities of believers than it is to single persons. We need to go out of our way to affirm the gifts, the special uses, the special fun. And I'm not saying just because they're single now, put them in training ministries. That's not affirmation. That's abuse. But we do not take time to affirm and to encourage young single people or even old single people to go out of their way and to enjoy their lives. But we leave them feeling alone and unworthy. Number something. So that we may live in healthy relationships with everyone. It is incredibly important to cultivate godly and God-fearing friendships. Because those people facilitate or rather influence so much of what you do. If you have a bad friend and you don't know how to keep proper boundaries between you and your friend, your marriage has already got big problems. Because he's going to shout at you once you leave him when actually, and you go, oh, Papela, and who does he think he is? People who don't encourage you to talk to this through and to pray over it. If you are a young man and all of your boys are not faithful to their wives, you are not going to suddenly magically become the Jesus of the group and be faithful to your wife. It is very important to ensure that in singleness we are able and we learn and rejoice in singleness so we may build healthy relationships with others, not just with the person that we might one day marry. And when you are married, because you don't have to take this other person into consideration or worry about the impact or the effect that this other person, these other friends might have on your union, you have a full opportunity to live and to learn how to live in relationship with others in its fullness before you get married, if you ever do get married. Which means that communication is not something you have to be taught from scratch because you have learned how to address, my friend, I thought that what you did the other day was a little shady, I didn't like it. You learned how to do conflict resolution and how to address and diffuse situations because you were in a big fight with your best friend and you managed to overcome it and to talk about it and you learned how to fix those things. The people who have taught me the most about romantic love are the people that I call my friends. The sacrifice that I have seen from them, the love that I have seen from them, the forgiveness that I have seen from them, the patience that I have seen from them will always and can only ever make me not only a better wife one day, should the Lord decide that that's a good idea, but also make me a more efficient Christian in others or in the spaces that I occupy. Next reason, so that we may learn not to idolize marriage. So we may learn not to idolize marriage. So we do not take idolatry is simply taking something and placing it above God in all your pursuits. So God says, don't work on Sabbath, but you value money and your job so much that you're willing to do so. God says, don't buy on the Sabbath day, for example, but you will do anything for clout. So you prioritize your Instagram feed for those restaurant shots on Sabbath. God says, I don't want you to do certain things or pursue certain things, but you do things that idolize or that make sure that the priority that you have always supersedes God's will and God's instruction. It's very important that we rejoice and be happy and be excited and at peace with our singleness, that we do not ever create a place where God is constantly second. One, either to our actual marriages, should we ever get into them, and two, to our desire to get married. God says, I want you to serve here. No, I'm not getting married. God says, I want you to adopt 3 children, for example, from from Alex, for example. The township, not the person. And you can't do it because you're like, no, I'm not married. I need to get married. So not that Alex has 3 children. Finally, so that when we do get married, we do not drown our husbands or our wives in years of single person expectations. You have been single for so long, you cannot wait to have some guilt-free sex. I told you to take kids out of the room. You said no, so we're going to say you cannot wait to have some guilt-free sex. That poor boy doesn't know the top of your head from the bottom of your toes, but you are not patient to teach it because you have been sitting in expectation that the day I get married, in every room, on every surface, in every country that we ever go to, in any and every position, we are going to do this thing because I've been waiting for so long. You were not happy when you were single and you expect this new spouse of yours, this poor person that has their own dreams and goals and ambitions, to satisfy and to fill you up completely, even spaces that only God can get to inside. And you drown and you overwhelm and you bury and you cover and you smother this poor man or this poor woman in all of these expectations that you have built up over 28, 29, 30, 35, 40. God forbid, 45 of singleness, thinking that this partner of yours is going to fulfill and make everything better. You can't let them breathe or expand or be who they are in reality, because you need them and you require them to fulfill the things that you did not fulfill in yourself when you were single. You had 1,000,001 opportunities to call Shumi and arrange a trip to Malawi. You didn't go. Now this poor guy must pay for first flight tickets to Malawi, and because you want in marriage to fulfill all the things that you didn't do when you were single. You didn't pursue that degree. Now that you have 4 children, you're pregnant with number 5. Now is the time you decide, it's a good time to do a PhD. And this poor guy must go, yeah, baby, I support you, and please go ahead and do whatever. You have 5 children under the age of 10. And you're getting mad when he's unable to fulfill even that tiny little expectation. You didn't know how to, but you could have bought a 5.6 million rand home maybe when you were single. If you had spoken to a financial investor, if you stayed out of Zara once, just this month, you didn't go to Zara, you didn't go to Woolies, you didn't go to Treasury, you didn't go to Country Road, you didn't go to Mr. Price. Maybe all those little 3,000 rands that you spend every single month at all of those places might have been able to buy you the house of your dreams. You couldn't do it. Now this poor person must figure out a way to make those dreams and those aspirations come true. But you could have done it when you were single. You crave social recognition and status and appreciation. You could have done magnificent things. You could have won a Nobel Peace Prize with all the time that you had when you were single and gotten all the public acclamation you wanted. But you want your marriage now to give you all the public recognition that you didn't have this entire time. So even when the hell you guys are no longer staying in the same house, it's always those photos on Instagram, hashtag love lives here, when homeboy has not been living at home for months now. But you can't let go of this desire and this craving for social recognition and the status that comes with being somebody's missus. And I know this happens more to the ladies than it does to the men, so leave them alone. But that comes more with being the missus. But you didn't do any of those things. So now this poor person must somehow figure out, outside of their own aspirations, their own expectations, their own desires, what they need and they want, how to fulfill all of the 30, 40 years worth of unmet expectations that you didn't pursue for yourself, that you didn't go after for yourself. Now this person must go for it. Y'all going to be divorced in 3 years. Maybe even 2. And finally, so that we are not crushed by abandonment, nor elated by selection. If we are single and we are so sure and determined that this person is going to be my husband, and then he leaves, you don't wake up for 6 weeks. All you do is read Rudy Francisco and Clementine von Radix and Bo Taplin and Ursa Daly Ward and Upile Chesala and Rupi Kaur, and you post screenshots. You are a poet now. All of a sudden, you're a motivational speaker on Facebook and Instagram. You're inspiring everybody about everything all the time because you were so charged and so in love and so happy that somebody had finally chosen you, that when they leave you, you fall apart. Or to be so elated by being selected or being chosen that you are willing to do anything to keep them. Yeah. Anything at all. This, you are not ready financially in your life to get a car, but you are finally dating the girl of your dreams, and she demands that she cannot date a brother without a car. You have about 20 years worth of black tax to still finalize at home. You can't do it now because you need to make sure that you impress your woman and give her the things that she wants. You can't afford a Peruvian weave. That's 20,000 rand. That is an installment on a car for 6 months. You won't have to pay a car note. But because you are just so sure, you've heard that this brother likes them as long and as European looking as humanly possible, there you are going off, getting yourself into all of this debt and doing all of these things because you are so overjoyed and happy and excited that they finally chose you that you're willing to compromise yourself and do whatever it is. You were celibate for 10 years, you were doing great, you were walking with the Lord, you and him were happy, you all were best friends now. All you ever spoke about was Jesus, and you were so determined to keep this girl or keep this guy that you're happy to walk into sexual immorality because you're so overjoyed and excited by the opportunity that you've been given to be somebody's babe and somebody's husband. In closing, it is incredibly important and necessary. You're going to spend so much time, and a time that you don't decide, that you are not sure of, that you can't determine. In 5 years, you might be married. You don't know that right now. But you are living your life and it's on hold and it's been suspended. You are not pursuing purity. You are not pursuing healthy relationship with others. You are not pursuing service in church. You are not pursuing purpose in your personal life. You are not pursuing the full gamut of the gifts and dreams that you could pursue. You are not utilizing your time efficiently. Do you know that husbands add an average of 7 hours a week to your housework as a woman? You didn't know that? Auntie Paulette is nodding very discreetly. 7 hours of housework because now all of a sudden you're not just ironing for yourself. You need to make sure you pass by the dry cleaners, pick up his shirt because tomorrow he has that meeting with the team that he's really, really worried about, and you haven't seen his gold tie in 6 months, and you know that's his lucky gold tie, and he needs to have it, but you can no longer buy Lux because there's a logic to it. You need to buy glycerin soap because that's the one that sort of works well for his skin. And please make sure that you call his mother because next week there's a stock for Kuntum and you must pick up the cookies from so-and-so's house because you're a good Makoti. And remember not to add too much chili to the chakalaka because his grandmother can't handle it. And so that's a whole new because you didn't utilize the time that you had when you were single to your fullness. I want to appeal to all people, and men, women alike, who are single and hated it. I know it's not true. I know there are days where you're just like, yo, is there something wrong with me? Is my breath stink? Am I a bad kisser? Yes, you are. Am I difficult or uncommunicative? financial advisor, get your money in order. Talk to your parents, organize healthy, sustainable black tax payments. Tell them they can't have aluminium doors in Malamlele. It's just not going to happen. You can't afford them. Start saving for your wedding if that's something that you are really determined to do. Do the things in singleness that will set you up not just for marriage, for the kingdom of God, for the remainder of your life. And do not live constantly holding your breath and hoping and praying all the married people are money because they have waiting on this person that might or might not come, and living angry and resentful and bitter towards your married friends, towards your church, towards that girl who stole your first grade boyfriend because who knows, maybe he might have been your husband, and most importantly towards God because you feel that you're not doing this important thing. Learn to walk in purity, preserving our bodies only for service to the Lord and to God, because that is where the Holy Spirit dwells. May the Lord bless the reading of His word. Amen.
How do I begin to say, Lord, I thank you? Even in the midst of pain, Lord, I thank you. Reflecting on the goodness of God, how He provides for me. I don't deserve it, but He keeps on blessing me. I
pray in a very special way for the people in Mozambique, in Malawi, and Zim, and everything they're currently experiencing. But more than them, we pray for ourselves as a church that we may be more effective, more useful, and reach them. We know that we are your agents on earth and that we cannot always defer with what is within our power away from you. And in a very special way, dear God, I want to pray for the single people in the house. I want to pray for those of us that are sleeping with other people's spouses. I want to pray for those of us who are struggling with guilt. I want to pray for those of us who have been unable to pray to you for months because we are dealing with the grip of pornography addiction, because ultimately what we're after is intimacy, and we will pursue any fake form of it just to feel close to someone. I want to pray for those of us who are angry with you, for this thing that we have been made to feel is so important, is so significant, is so affirming of who we are, that we are unable to talk to you for the rage that we feel at this thing that we feel that we have upon. For those of us who are currently going through divorces and are terrified of starting life over again as single people, I'm praying for us too. For those of us who have been widowed and who are terrified of life alone again, I'm praying for us too. For those of us who are raising children alone and single, with partners who are absent or disinterested, or who are simply not there in the house every day to wake up when the baby cries or show up when the kid needs help with soccer or math, I'm praying for those of us as well. I'm praying for those of us who simply idolize marriage, who have more Pinterest boards on wedding dresses and decor than we do on any other aspect. I'm praying for those of us who have felt bound to South Africa, to Santon Metro, to Santon SDA in general, because we are certain and we are sure that our spouse and our partner is here, and we have been unable to pursue what you have called us to do because we're waiting with bated breath for that purpose. Forgive those of us who enjoy the sin. Forgive those of us who keep several shy buddies in rotation at any one time. Forgive those of us who relish not following your word. Forgive those of us who have been so comfortable living with people who are not our husbands, who are not our wives as yet, and defying daily. Forgive us also in a very special way of living double lives that are rotten on the inside but look holy and pure on the outside, because we are festering and enjoying the sins that we pursue. But also open our eyes to the other aspects of our lives that are dysfunctional and requiring, not just in the bedroom, but at work, at school, in relationship with our friends, our families, in pursuit of purpose, and all the things that we don't do that we need to check and make sure that we hand over to the Holy Spirit. I'm praying for those as well. Not only that, we have said over and over again that marriage is not salvific and it does not lead to heaven. Help us to not idolize and to subdue or to look aside at the precious gift that is seeing you again in favor of wearing a white dress on this side of heaven. Forgive us for all of those times where we have been angry and petulant and envious and hostile to those that we feel you have given our blessings to. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. To our visitors, this is Metro Mission, and we keep it real here. That was real. And it speaks to you. On behalf of Metro Mission, we'd like to thank each and every person for worshiping with us. We are here at 9 a.m. every Saturday. Today, as you can see, we have a lunch. It's a catered lunch. So if you do not have any other plans, please join us. Some of the ladies have gone out to make some salads. We commune, we have conversation, and it's fellowship. So just before we do leave, I'd like to ask if everyone can just bow their heads, and I'm going to pray for the food. Our gracious Heavenly Father, dear Lord, we thank you so much for the word that was spoken. Lord, as we depart this place now and some may leave, Lord, I pray for safe traveling mercies. And I pray for the food that will be enjoyed here at Metro. Lord, may you bless the hands that prepared it. May you bless it to our bodies and may it nourish us. We pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. As Alex mentioned, and I want to thank Alex and the music team as well, there will be rehearsal this afternoon, Chicago. And for those leaving, have a safe journey home and happy Sabbath again. Amen.
And only one elder. Only one me. There's only one me. That I gotta share with the world. I do so many things with my life.